Once more, the greatest sports trophy in the world has been won. Oh, and how much fun it is to make that statement, knowing it will rankle more than a few of those who follow those other participation trophies. There's that baseball trophy that calls itself emblematic of the World Series, when in reality the world stops at Pismo Beach, California, the Bronx, New York, and one of the greatest franchise failures sitting in Miami and attended by the same 9 people every single weekend. There's that trophy for guys who run up and down a court with such immense talent, only to have most games decided by who can hack the right person into missing a shot where absolutely nobody is in their face at all. And this other piece of hardware where they cheap out and only play one game to decide the winner instead of the much tougher best of 7 in a sport that doesn't even allow the guy with the ball to get hit for fear he'll get hurt? What is that all about? Of course, this is all in fun and jest, so anybody getting all bent out of shape about it can send all complaints and social media threats to the website Wankers Who Wouldn't Last 10 Seconds on a Pair of Skates or Play With Nothing More Than Band-Aids on a Broken Body Part.com. The Florida Panthers have won their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, leaving behind some of the best stories and moments in any sport, anywhere, anytime, bar none, where they purposely teased their fan base and rooted out all the bandwagon jumpers by allowing the Edmonton Oilers to win 3 straight games and send the series to a Game 7. Just for laughs. Head coach Paul Maurice is no longer the most experienced head coach in the game without a Stanley Cup, while also winning newfound fame with great wisecrack answers at press conferences and during live games. A franchise founded on the tale of a rat being killed in the home team locker room that no end pisses off visiting teams when those damn things are raining down on the ice. Where the Stanley Cup now takes over being the number 1 cup in a place where the ancient green cups of a boozy and veteran watering hole were once held as the single most important ones to own. Trust me, I know. I had them. Where the day after winning the cup, the players' first stop was taking the cup into the Atlantic Ocean and boozing with it at the historic Elbow Room on Fort Lauderdale Beach. And you can't do that with any of those other trophies, including the weensy little World Cup soccer trophy, which doesn't even have a place to pour cheap French champagne from. What is that all about? This is one of the only places you will ever see a dog sitting in a front row seat for a championship game. Oh my goodness, well played, Brody. Where the local ABC station carrying the greatest sports event in recent memory, WPLG, cut out of the postgame celebration early to bludgeon people with another ad and another boring newscast, featuring the requisite reporter hawking ridiculously expensive championship clothing because there's no live shot with yellow tape available to make it even easier to be giddy. And where ESPN, the so-called worldwide leader in sports and part of the Disney ABC network conglomerate carrying the Stanley Cup Finals, can't even get it right on their social media, forgetting that the Conn Smythe Trophy is not for the best player in the final series, but in the entire playoffs, exceeded only by the jock sniffers who got all wankered when the Oilers' Connor McDavid refused to come out of the locker room to accept his trophy, doing the classy thing and staying with his team in the locker room. That exceeded only by the dip sniffers in the Panthers crowd who booed his selection mercilessly, proving it's still a young franchise burden with some fans who don't have the sporting class of a rubber rodent. But the main hit here is where the Florida Panthers play. The city of Sunrise, Florida. Not so much a city as a repository for the usual housing developments, chain restaurants by the dozens, and home to one of the world's largest shopping malls located next door to the Panthers arena, where the team worked in conjunction with their ticket broker partners to block off hundreds of available playoff seats only for scalping purposes, and where a parking lot paid for decades ago by that city was jacking people for $75 a car just to park for the playoffs. Ridiculous. Sunrise is another made-up community west of Fort Lauderdale, where the original name was Sunset Village. But that was dropped because looking at the age of people it attracted, the feeling was Sunset would be just a little too final. Where they once had a mayor named John LaMello, a former Miami nightclub owner who once went to federal prison for extortion conspiracy, among other things, and the city that as late as 2010 went lost on Google Maps as the software kept sending people to Sarasota on the west coast of Florida, because unless you were a South American tourist coming to Sawgrass Mills Mall for the sales, or be forced into going to IKEA for furniture you didn't need, nobody wanted to go to Sunrise. That's a fact. The Stanley Cup now resides in a place where the city government did absolutely nothing to mark the playoffs, the series, even Game 7. What the hell is the matter with you wrinkled wankers? This is the Stanley Cup. Then again, worth mentioning that the championship parade for the Panthers will be in an actual city, that of Fort Lauderdale, because holding one in Sunrise would mean starting in the mall parking lot and ending up at, yes, a Flanagan's, where you could get your own green drinking cup. No complaints about the arena where the Stanley Cup now resides, and it's now the only place in South Florida to have a hockey team, way out near the Everglades near a major highway where everybody can easily get to it, but where a team resides and where an historic piece of hardware lives. That should inspire pride in a community, but not in this backwater strip mall concrete slab where the so-called city couldn't care less so long as the parking lot and tax dollars kept flowing in. Oh, let's not tell them about all the people who park at Sawgrass Mills and walk across the street instead of paying the extortion-level prices. The Florida Panthers earned their cup. The growing and loyal fan base earned the celebration. The phony city of Sunrise hasn't. So from now on, we'll forgive network announcers when they say the Panthers play in Fort Lauderdale, by the beach, Miami, Miami Beach, or smack dab in the Everglades, home of the real Florida Panther. All more deserving than the hacks and con artists who enjoy living in God's retail waiting room. Hey, John LaMello isn't spinning in his grave, unless it's to collect his free tickets and personalized parking space, like the rest of the Sunset Village denizens. Speaking of everything, I'm Ed Berliner.